Stories of Great Christians. From the Department of Broadcasting of the Moody Bible Institute, we bring you Chapter 3 of A Spectacle in Anhui, the story of John and Betty Stam, martyred missionaries to China. May 1932. All over the nation, the graduating classes of 1932 stepped out into a time of depression, a time of uncertainty. The students of the Moody Bible Institute chose John Stam to give the class address at their graduation exercises. It had been 8 months since Betty Scott had sailed for China, and John couldn't be sure of ever seeing her again. He couldn't be sure he would pass the medical test for overseas work, and he couldn't be sure that the China Inland Mission would accept him. Tom, one of John's best friends at Moody, later wrote,
"When last I saw John, we went up on Garrett Mountain, which overlooks Patterson, our hometown. Now, one can see practically the entire city, besides New York, Newark, and nearer places. I thought by his silence that he was just taking it all in, but his thoughts were far away. 'Just think, Tom,' he said at length, 'there are scores of cities in China as large as this one where they don't have the gospel.'"
The city of Fuyang in the northern part of China's Anhui province was one such city, and Betty Scott longed to work there among the women. She had made unusual progress with the language at her upriver station, for much of it came back to her from earlier days. Just as she was designated to leave for Fuyang, however, some troubling news came from that part of the province.
"Mr. Nelson, look out the window, way down the road. Who are they?"
I don't know. The way they're running, it almost looks like they're attacking us.
No one attacked while carrying rickshaws.
Well, they must be carrying someone who's sick.
Betty, don't run in this heat. You'll...
No, she won't. Betty got more energy than Big Ox.
Don't ever let Betty hear you say that. American girls don't like to be compared with oxen.
Chinese girls don't like either, but Betty still got more energy than Ox.
Sen Yang Kwang? Oh, Katie, are you all right?
Betty, I'm all right. My feet are just a little swollen.
You didn't walk all the way from Sen Yang Kwang.
Well, I ran the first half.
What happened?
The communists are all over the northern parts of the province now. They've been coming through town after town and killing all the leaders. Thousands of them came right into Shanwan Kwang. That's when Mr. Ferguson sent me out and told me to keep running.
What about the other workers?
Mr. Ferguson was going to warn the rest when I last saw him. No one caught up with me on the road, though. Oh, I was hoping maybe someone would get here before me, and you'd be able to give me news.
How are your feet today, Katie?
Oh, they're fine now, Mr. Nelson. They're all ready to take me back to San Juan Kwang.
And I'm afraid San Juan Kwang may not be ready for you. Until we get more news, I'm not even sure how safe it is for you here. It might be wisest to send all the women back to Shanghai.
Oh, no, there's no need for that, Mr. Nelson. Betty wouldn't stand for that.
Let's just pray that the communists are merely passing through and their stay this far north is temporary.
But if it isn't, what can we do for the Chinese Christians we left behind? There were lots of them, Mr. Nelson. Well, if you could have seen the progress just in recent weeks. Why, half the town came to our church services last Sunday. I can remember when people were afraid of being seen near us, and there was no real accounting for it. It was as if the Lord were pulling them all into us by strings to give them one more chance to hear the gospel.
Perhaps that was their last chance.
If only I'd known. I could have worked a little harder, talked to a few more people.
Why, your feet still look terrible. Worse. Perhaps we'd better get you to a doctor.
I wish my feet were swollen from visiting all the homes of Shanwan Kwan instead of running away from them.
You were following Mr. Ferguson's orders, and you would have been wrong to do otherwise. Oh, Betty!
Word just came from the station downriver. 3 of the other missionaries arrived there safely last night. But Mr. Ferguson. He didn't get out in time. He was taken by the communists into the mountains.
Katie, where's Laopan?
He's right outside. I'll get him.
But at least we know the communists have left the area. They're way off in the mountains somewhere. So there's no reason why I can't leave for Fuyang tomorrow as planned.
What's wrong with your voice, Betty?
Mr. Nelson?
Oh, Laopan, I want you to take Katie to Shanghai to see a doctor about her feet. And tell them about Mr. Ferguson and what's going on in northern Anhui.
I will do it, Mr. Nelson.
They've probably left Anhui by now. I'm sure it's safe again.
Betty, open your mouth.
What?
Open your mouth. Laopan, you'll be taking Betty along, too.
To Shanghai? Oh, please, Mr. Nelson, I know we're safe here. And Fuyang is safe now, too.
No one's safe around here until you're isolated from the rest. How long has your throat been sore? It looks like acute tonsillitis.
Tonsillitis? Oh, Mr. Nelson, that's hardly important now.
You'll stay at least 6 feet from everyone until you leave. Now start packing.
But I don't feel feverish, really. It's just a sore throat. Katie, look.
Oh, it looks awfully red, Betty.
Oh, but nobody's left out west to help the Chinese Christians. Or to get more news about Mr. Ferguson, or...
And no more talking. I'll head out west with some men from the next station to see what we can learn as soon as you're on your way.
Come in.
Hi, Betty. How are you feeling?
Oh, hello, Katie. Laopan. I'm feeling all right for a girl who's just been shanghaied.
Can you talk now?
What you think she just did?
I mean, are you allowed to talk now?
Only about happy things, Dr. Lewis said.
Oh?
The doctor know you not your usual self without knowing your usual self.
You don't have your usual smile, Betty.
I'm smiling.
It looks put on. If I were you, I'd just be honest and frown. But wait, I have some wonderful news from the doctor.
We can go back to the station now?
Well, you're half right. My feet are fine now, and he said I can leave Shanghai today if I want, if it's all right with Mr. Gibb. You'll be coming soon, too. He said you're not contagious anymore, and he'll let you leave this room this afternoon if you feel up to it.
Then I can leave tomorrow.
He didn't say that. I think he'll want you to wait a few days before you do any traveling. And then, of course, you'll have to ask Mr. Gibb.
Oh, I feel like I'm wasting so much time, and I'm absolutely helpless about it.
Maybe God wants you that way for a while.
Maybe he's teaching me patience, but I only seem to be learning how impatient I am.
That always comes first.
Listen, Betty, I won't leave till tomorrow. This afternoon we can look at the shops. We didn't have time to do that when we came through before.
Shanghai, most fun city. Gateway to China.
Except there's nothing very Chinese about it. It's as much French or British as anything else.
What do you have against the French and British?
Oh, come in if you're not afraid of my germs.
I'm not afraid of your germs, Betty.
Is this the John you were telling? Well, I guess it is, huh? You two must be anxious to catch up and everything.
Come on, Miss Katie. Let's go look at shops.
Oh, don't leave on my account.
Oh, John, this is Katie and Leopan.
How do you do, Katie and Leopan?
Oh, we do fine. Come, Miss Katie.
Nice to have met you, John.
And you.
See you in a little bit, Betty.
How did you hear?
Well, I was going to ask you the same thing. The Empress of Japan brought me to Shanghai.
Tonsillitis brought me.
Then you didn't know I was coming?
Oh, how could I?
Well, I suppose. I hope that...
Oh,
perhaps
John, this is the best way it could have happened. Oh, I could kick myself. You should have seen me just a minute ago, complaining at the Lord's improper planning. Oh, but now it all makes sense.
Well, when they told me you were in Shanghai, I couldn't believe it. I still can't.
It's been a whole year.
Yeah.
Why didn't you write me when you passed the tests and were accepted by the board? Why didn't you let me know you were coming? You wanted to surprise me.
You mean you never got my letter?
No.
Oh, well, no wonder I never got a response. I spent a lot of time worrying about that, Betty.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have instinctively known that you would write, and then when the letter got lost, I should have written a response just the same. Oh.
And what kind of a response would you have written?
I would have said, "Yes, John, I'm doing fine. Yes, I'm making great progress with the language. Yes, I'm about ready to leave for my real work in Fuyang.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I miss you too. Very much."
Anything else?
Well, it seems I would have said yes to just about anything you had to ask.
Well, then, there was one question in particular. Let me see if I can remember just the words I used. It was near the end of the letter. I thought I phrased it very well. I believe I said, "Will you marry me?"
I see. Then I would have said, "I'm sorry, John, but I do not approve of marriage by mail. The man who marries me will have to propose to my face."
Very well.
Go away!
What's going on here?
Oh, hello, Mr. Gibb. I was just asking Betty some questions, and you're just in time to hear the last one. Betty, there's nothing to prevent us now. Will you marry me?
Oh, yes, John. Yes.
Here you two. What do you think you're doing?
I'm kissing my fiancée, Mr. Gibb.
And he proposed to me with Mr. Gibb standing right there.
Well, I'd waited too long to let details get in my way.
Now tell us the truth, John. How did you work it?
How'd I work it?
You don't expect me to believe it was a coincidence. Betty happens to come up to Shanghai for the first time in a year, and the same week you happen to drop in?
Well, no, I certainly can't expect you to believe it was a coincidence, but you know that China Inland Mission did my scheduling for me. It couldn't have been from my end.
And I had nothing to say about my tonsils.
Well, then.
I wish I could have seen the expression on Mr. Gibb's face.
Well, you can see it right now. Here he comes.
Hello, Mr. Gibb.
Hello, Mr. Gibb.
Hello, everyone. Well, I've just been speaking to Dr. Lewis about Betty. He seems to think she can travel any time she's ready now.
She doesn't want to go anywhere now.
Can I go to Fuyang?
Oh, as a matter of fact, I've just received word from that area confirming that things are quiet now. The communists seem to be completely out of the province already.
And what about Mr. Ferguson?
Well, I'm afraid he's still missing. How's your throat feel, Betty?
Oh, it's never been better.
You know, Dr. Lewis suggested that John really ought to pay the doctor's bill, seeing he's getting the benefit of his treatment. Yeah, I've been thinking about you two lovebirds. It seems a little strange. A new man coming out and getting himself engaged right off the bat. But I don't see any reason against your being married. As soon as your year is up.
My year?
Yes. The rule is that a CIM missionary may not marry until a year after his arrival on the field.
Surely you knew that, John.
I'd forgotten it. But we couldn't have married tomorrow anyway. After all, you've got your work cut out for you at Fuyin, and I still have plenty of study at the language school in Anhui.
You'll like Anhui, John. Country of wet, green rice field. Many hills and valleys, trees of every color.
And what are the people like in Anhui, Laupa?
Like fields of rice they work in. More than you could ever talk to in your life. Oh, you got big task.
Yeah.
You'll learn language quick, John. Well, field is ripe.
If I ever learn to express myself in Chinese as you do in English, it'll be a miracle.
Then you count on miracle.
And so we conclude Chapter 3 of A Spectacle in Anhui by Fred Heron. This is another in the series, Stories of Great Christians, produced by the Department of Broadcasting of the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.